Hi there. So I wanted to take this opportunity to go through study guide for exam one. Let's have a look at some of the key points that you should have taken away from our first chapters. First, I have a fair number of matching activities for us. As you recall, inferior refers to something being below. Like in an organizational hierarchy, you are inferior to your boss. Then something that is superior would be above you, like your boss is superior to you in an organizational hierarchy. A dorsal referred to something being on the backside. So in animals like humans who stand on 2 feet, dorsal is also our posterior. In animals that stand on 4 legs, like dogs, dorsal is towards their spine. Lateral means here. Lateral means towards the side, while medial is towards the midline. Deep, instead, is away from the body surface, while superficial would be close to the body surface. Say bones are deep to the skin, while skin is superficial to bones. Then, when we talk about structures in relation to their starting point, like point of origin, your upper limb from your trunk, for example. Distal means further away from there. Let's say your palms are distal from your shoulder. Your shoulder would be instead proximal. There is one more that we have not talked about. Ventral refers to something being on the belly side. So again, in humans that stand on 2 legs, ventral is also anterior. In dogs and other 4-legged animals, ventral is their inferior. Now, let's have a look of some regional terms. And recall you had this nice handout about those. These terms really become more familiar more you learn about anatomy. So axillary refers to the armpit region. Tarsal, instead, your ankle region. Orbital is your eye area. Inguinal, groin area. Umbilical, then again, is your belly button area. Remains of the umbilical cord. And oral is your mouth. Let's have a look of the second page. Femoral refers to the thigh. This is where your femur, the big bone, runs inside. Tarsal, we already covered that, but let's talk about patellar. Patellar is the kneecap area. Popliteal, again, is on the other side of the knee, at the back. Oh, let's have a look of examples of body systems. It was your nervous system that was responsible for responding to stimuli, both internal and external. So an important body control system. And while muscular system is responsible for movement, it also helps with heat production. Think of shivers. So we see that it's just more than just about movement. Urinary system instead is responsible of regulating your body fluid and electrolyte levels. We all know that skeletal system contains, for example, our bones, providing attachment points for the muscles, scaffolding for the body, but it is also the site where the blood cells are produced in the bone marrow. So hematopoiesis takes place here. Remember, lymphatic and immune system are interconnected. It is within the lymphatic system where the body's immune system lives. And on this list, as the last one, we see that endocrine system was a relatively slow-acting control system of the body when we compare it to the nervous system. So endocrine system is all about hormones. I do have some true-false statements here. And we remember that most body processes work through negative feedback loops to maintain homeostasis. So that statement is true. We remember that a body could be studied in many levels of structural organizations. In humans, the highest level would be an organism. An organism instead is made of an organ systems, which are made of organs, which are made of tissues, and those are made of cells. Then we can go to molecules, which are made of atoms, and so on and so on. We recall also body planes. This gives us a good chance to talk about as well about body cavities. Thoracic was your chest cavity, and abdominopelvic referred to the space of your abdomen and pelvis. So those two areas would be separated by a transverse plane. That could be known as a horizontal plane. And it was median plane that divided us into left and right. This is also known as sagittal plane. Middle of that would be mid-sagittal. On the next page, I have some examples of tissues. Simple cuboidal tissue was made of one layer of cube-shaped cells. So they look like dice. So that would be our picture B, which shows one layer of cube-shaped cells side by side. Stratified squamous epithelium instead is multiple layers. So that is the stratified part. And squamous refers to the outermost cells being these flattened disc-like cells from a cross-section. So a little bit like scales of a fish. Figure D illustrates this well, as seen with these many layers and the outermost disc-like cells. Simple squamous instead is one layer. And again, these flattened cells, we see that on figure A, where we have this one layer of flattened cells. Next, there are two main types of glands in the body. Endocrine glands produce hormones, while exocrine glands are those that we often think about when thinking of glands like sweat glands, salivary glands, and so on. So those exocrine glands are local, have a duct, and release secretions through it on the surface close by from its location. Then when we talk about osmosis, this is a passive process where water molecules move across membrane. And in the diffusion instead, it is not water, but the molecules of the water that are within the water that move across this membrane. Then on the next page, I have some tissue types for us to look at. Epithelial tissues have a apical surface. This refers to a free outer surface. And they also have a basement membrane, which is the bottom layer where new cells emerge. This type of tissues are avascular, so they do not have blood vessels beyond apical layer. And these cells divide rapidly. Skin would be a great example of this. Now, let's look at muscle tissue. This tissue is specialized to generate movement through contracting and relaxing, and this can be done under voluntary control or it can happen involuntarily. Nervous tissue is made of neurons and supporting cells known as neuroglia. They conduct messages and can be irritable to trigger a message. Finally, let's review the connective tissue. It does what it says in the name, connects parts, especially either mechanically or physiologically. So this includes collagen, elastic reticular fibers, also bones and cartilages. But remember that I said that it can also be physiological connection, as in case of blood that moves stuff around the body. So connects body parts. Next, I have some more clinically related notes for us. Cancer of melanocytes would be known as malignant melanoma. When there is exposure to chemicals which causes things like itching, swelling, redness of the skin, then we talk about contact dermatitis. Psoriasis is a condition that results from cells of the skin dividing at too fast rate, resulting in these dry, silvery patches. Athlete's foot is characterized by fungus that is found especially between the toes. Basal cell carcinoma instead refers to a cancer of that lowermost layer of cells of the skin. And squamous cell carcinoma refers to the cancer of stratum spinosum layer of the skin cells. A few more on this page. First degree burns were the least severe. Here we just see red color and swelling of the outermost layer of the skin, nothing too severe. If we have overactive sebaceous glands, that results in darnduff. We talk about seborrhea. Impetigo refers to the bacterial infection by Staphylococcus, where there are lesions filled with fluid around the mouth and nose. Let's have a look at some other structures. The outermost layer of the skin is known as papillary layer. The part of the hair that's enclosed inside the follicle, inside the skin, that is known as the hair root. Matrix divides to form hair cells. Medulla, as a term, refers to the middle part in anatomy. So in this context, it would be the central core of each hair. Apocrine glands are here the pseudoferous glands that are largely contained within the armpit region. Nail cuticle is where nail grows from, so the proximal fold here. And erector pili was my favorite muscle, responsible for raising hair so that we could get those goosebumps. I also have some statements here regarding body membranes. So cutaneous membrane is what we know as our skin. We see mucous membrane, for example, at the mouth and nasal cavity lining those, and these are ideal for absorption and secretion, so for materials to move across those. And then let's talk about serous membranes. They are responsible for secreting fluids around organs and contain visceral and parietal layers, for example, the layers around the heart forming the stack-like structure. Okay, finally, I have some broader questions for us to practice on. You could use those for thinking of how you would explain those to test how well you have grasped the content. ABC D rule refer to the skin cancers. We look at asymmetry, border irregularity, color variation, and diameter. Sometimes evolving is added to this as a letter E. Erector pili is something we already mentioned, those little muscles attached to hair that help to raise those, so getting goosebumps. Melanocytes and keratinocytes. These are skin cells of epidermis. Keratinocytes form the protective barrier, and melanocytes produce melanin pigment for UV protection. Together, they form this vital protective loop. Anatomy was studying structure, so form, and physiology about function. Organizational levels are something that we already talked about as well. Remember, atoms to molecules, cells, not to forget cell organelles, to tissues, then organs, organ systems, and organelles. The last question is a broader one where you can have your own opinion about human life functions. The reasoning is what matters here.